they arrived there. Abram traveled through the land as far as the site of the great tree of Morah in Shechem. At that time, the Canaanites were in the land. The Lord appeared to Abram and said, "To your offspring I will give this land." So Abraham built an altar there to the Lord who had appeared to him. From there, he went on toward the hills east of Bethel, and he pitched his tent, with Bethel on the west and Ai on the east. There he built an altar to the Lord and called upon the name of the Lord. And then Abraham set out and continued toward the Negev. We continue our narrative in the 13th chapter. From the Negev, Abraham went from place to place to place until he came back to Bethel, to the place between Bethel and Ai, where his tent had been earlier, and where he had first built an altar. And there Abraham called upon the name of the Lord. Word of God. Word of life.
Thanks be to God.
Be seated. Please.
What I'd like you to do is plant your feet firmly on the ground. Be comfortable. Hands on your hips. And just start breathing in. A nice, slow, intentional breath in. And an exhale. And I want you to think about that every time you breathe in, you are breathing in the words from God that says, "I love you." So take a breath in. God says, "I love you." And your exhale is your love of God. God, I love you. So exhale. Take another breath. And exhale. Please pray with me. God, be with us here today in this community, in this holy space, as we share story about travel, as we connect with each other, and as we give glory to you with all that we are and everything that we have. All these things we ask in your name, and all God's children said. Amen. So that breathing thing was probably more for me rather than you. However, I think we hear an awful lot about how we're supposed to love God, but we forget how much God loves us. So I encourage you as the week goes on in lab to every time you inhale God's love with the very breath that sustains us. And every time you exhale your love for God. Okay? A little challenge for the week. So for those of you who do not know me, which is probably a lot of you because I'm sort of a lab newbie, I am Marcia Pedersen. I'm the Director of Children, Youth, and Family Ministries in Austin, Minnesota. So our town is known for Hormel, and you probably haven't heard of Hormel. But you've heard of Spam, right? All right. Yeah. Like my little Spam section here. Spam is not bad email. Spam is lunch meat that lives forever. Just think, okay? Span has sustained many people in foreign countries, especially in Hawaii. Oh, Pastor Roy likes Span. So true confession, no, I do not eat it. That's just our claim to fame of our community. So anyways, we're known as Spam Town, USA. It's kind of a silly thing. If you're ever in Austin, there's a really awesome Spam museum. It's super free, super fun. You gotta do it once and then you don't ever have to do it again. But the irony about Spam is that Spam is like a notorious travel food. You pack it, and all you have to do is like creak it open, and you've got food, right, on your journey. Super cool. Not for me, but maybe for you. And so it's really ironic that from Spam Town, little old me gets to talk about travel today. And so that irony isn't lost on me. But another fun fact, I am a country girl born and raised. I currently live on my family farm, which is very unusual in this day and age. But this farm belonged to my grandparents. And my grandparents were travelers. They were travelers because they came here in search and hope of something better and a different connection than what they had at home. So my grandfather, as a like 3 to 5 year old, it's kind of iffy, but came from Norway. So I am technically, what, 2nd generation immigrant in this country. That's a pretty cool thing in today's climate. So searching for something new and different kind of sets you on a journey that you might not expect. But because I'm a country girl and I'm a farm girl, a unique thing about farm kids, especially people like me, who were farming families in the 1980s, not the 1880s, I know, right? 1980s. Is that we grew up in the middle of a farm crisis. So if you heard of things like farm aid or families losing family farms, this is kind of a big deal because people who have worked, who had traveled for something new and different, traveled in hope, lost everything and had nothing. This thing that had been in their family for so long was taken by a bank and a debt. And so that's the climate that I was at when I was you guys' age. We struggled for things in my family. We struggled for food. We didn't have enough food. We struggled because our neighbors were losing houses left and right. We were kind of stuck. And because if you live in that lifestyle and you live in that environment, you start to think differently about the world around you. And so because of that, my parents really instilled a desire to travel, but we were experts at traveling on the cheap, okay? And so it's one way that you travel on the cheap. What do? We go camping in a tent, right? So my dad would take us camping. And for us, it was a really big deal because when we scrimp and save and everything, a vacation is a huge luxury. But my parents had this desire to see things that were outside of our community, and so I really treasure that about them. So I'm hoping, oh yeah, there's my cute brother and me. If you know my daughters and you look at my picture, yeah, I'll just leave that there. But camping was a way for us as a family to explore, to travel, to see new places, and we can do it, on a budget. So we traveled everywhere in the Midwest. If we traveled anywhere, we camped. Most cities or well-known sites that were seen on our list, that were high on our list to see, were seen from a campsite with a lawn chair and a fire right next to it. And we explored many state parks in Minnesota. We've seen almost half of them, which is really cool. The Black Hills of South Dakota, state parks in Wisconsin, just a lot of different places that we were able to travel on not so much money. So even though these pictures behind me aren't the best quality, what you can see was smiles on our faces. We loved it. And a happy gnome, of course, because what's camping without a happy gnome? For good measure, right? But we trusted when we did that as children. We trusted that our parents were in charge and they had us, they had our backs. And that allowed us to immerse into something new and different. So we took this one big vacation. We go to Washington, D.C. We could not do it in a single day in a camper, because where do you park a camper in our nation's capital? Nowhere close. So we splurged on this vacation and we stayed in hotels. But what we couldn't do is we couldn't get to Washington, D.C. all at once. We traveled in stages, we stayed overnight, we stayed in the homes of friends who offered hospitality to us. We visited relatives who housed us until we got to Washington, D.C. and got to be in like our first real life hotel of my life. I was probably a 7th grader. And man, was that the coolest thing. I wish I had a picture, but I do not have a picture of that, so. But as we looked around, as we toured Washington, D.C. and the Capitol and the White House, and then onto the battlegrounds in Gettysburg, we realized that as we're making this journey, we're making all these stops, but getting ready to make the return trek to home. And part of me feels like, hey, this is a great thing, and the other part of me is like, oh man, I have to go home, right? Sort of like Friday Night Lab. But just this, but as a mom today of daughters who are 20, 22, and 24, I really appreciate this kind of little bug that my parents planted in me to want to travel. But I also think differently about what it's like to travel with family. Because if you've ever sat with your family in a car, like for a 17-hour drive, it's super fun, right? Super fun. My brother and I are inseparable, like literally until we have to be separated. So today, I couldn't help but connect that travel and those journeys of my childhood to this text of Abram today. And so I want to unpack a little bit of a travel log here. I liked how Pastor Roy visibly moved us around the space to all those places. But what did Roy do? He made a circle. It might have been oblong, but it was a good circle. So as I unpack this, things that I'm thinking about in the context of modern day travel, so Abraham stopped. Why did he stop? What did he stop for? Was it the scenic bypass and have selfie taken there? Was it a bathroom break for somebody in the family or all the animals that he probably traveled with, because he took everything with him? Certainly wasn't gas, but it could have been fuel for the animals, could have been fuel for them. Different reasons to stop. What motivated Abram to get where he did, to go? Because if somebody tells you to go, are you going to go right away? Maybe. Maybe not. Did he start just because it felt good? Did he choose a different stopping place? Not entirely sure. But all of these questions I asked as I unpack this. But the thing that I think is really cool is that in the middle of this journey, God has already been there. God showed up. In verse 4, Abram, in spite of family, in spite of whatever travel obstacles he had, he acknowledges that God was there. God was there first. And Abraham did what? He went. As God had told him. So he traveled with family, he traveled with all their stuff, and he goes to this land that he probably doesn't know, just like my grandfather did. And he goes acknowledging that the presence of God is already there. As he goes around those places, the stopping points for him were places where he stops intentionally to acknowledge his appreciation for God, just like our exhale. Abram travels, God promises him something really big. And he moves to the hill country, he moves to the east side of Bethel, he pitches a tent, awesome cheap travel tool, and he probably had lots of tents, so yeah, that's probably a thing. He builds another altar to God and acknowledges again the presence of God. And Abram kept traveling. So if you're kind of seeing the narrative, this circle of the story, the one thing I want you to think about is that this journey continues. There's famine in the land. Abram's actions, kind of in the between time, are defined by a response to him trying to protect his wife, who he calls his sister, to try and protect her. Oopsie. That was a problem, but that's a different story. The journey goes on, the journey comes back to Egypt, his family goes into Negev, and then on from there where he started, because he comes full circle. And again there he calls on who? God. So then connecting that to life, when we travel, it doesn't always go smoothly. We start, we're super excited, we're anticipatory, we want to get there. But then logically we know we have to stop, right? You can't get there all in one time, unless it's a short trip. But if you're taking a long journey, that's what you have to do. Occasionally you have a roadblock, an unplanned stop. The road literally stops in front of you, and you cannot go. Sometimes there's construction detours. There's unexpected plans. Google Maps takes you this way when you should have gone that way. All these things are possible happenings. Until, with excitement, you reach your destination. A mountaintop. A lab, if you will. You return exhausted, happy to be home, sad to have left your destination, but ready to tell the story. And life's like that, right? I think Avril Lavigne said that. So in life, we have these stops, we have natural pauses, like something for you guys. It would be the beginning and ending of a school year. Communion, or like a big milestone at your church, a confirmation class, or a celebration of confirmation. Places where we stop and we acknowledge something important, the beginning and the ending of something. We look forward to the next part, the next steps with anticipation, sometimes with caution. Sometimes it's awesome, sometimes it's not, and it depends on the circumstances. Roadblocks are life's flat tires, engine overheats, rain delays. Those happen, but usually they're temporary. Construction detours, when we have to stop, when we literally cannot go any farther, when we have to clean up, prune some branches, do something, reevaluate, reroute. Something has to change. Those are the big challenges, but they are not insurmountable. What we thought about our original path gets redirected, and we continue forward. Our destination is our expected end game, our ending point, the culmination of the journey, the thing that we have waited for. And if one thing life has taught me is that the destination isn't always what you expect it to be, and the secrets and the surprises are actually in the journey. And that was during the journey that my trip has always been most influenced. That return trip, the full circle, the coming back to the starting point, when walking in circles seems self-defeating, it also is necessary because we have to have a place that we come back to for a restart. To journey again with the wisdom and the experience that we've gained on that last journey. And then after the trip, what do? We share the vacation pictures. We tell the story of the journey. And it's by sharing the story of the journey that the real work happens all over again. So this is a quickie spoiler alert for my little awesome friends here. Since you know me, we share this journey together, and we've shared quite a journey this past year. So others, you're going to probably not necessarily get what this is, but over and it's an altar of little things that people have given me on the journey. And it's a very special altar. So we're going to go back for some pictures again as we wrap this up. It never failed that when we traveled as a family on any journey, this was always where I ended up. In the arms of my father, my dad. These are photos that I deeply treasure because somehow, after all of the angst, the teenage drama, the travel drama, the getting there, the fighting, the throwing Legos out the window on the side of the highway, which really did happen, it was awful. The big backseat fights with my brother, which only happened a couple times and they were never my fault. I always seemed to end up in the arms of my dad. When I couldn't see the fence, my dad held me up to get a better view. When I was too afraid to hold a handful of grain out for an animal, he held my hand out for me. I always ended up in the arms of my dad. And what I realize now as a parent, as a mom to 3 adult daughters who are awesome, awesome individuals. They make paths of their own. It is these places that my dad chose intentionally to take us on journeys were so significant. And these actions, those places of knowing just how to lift up, to support, and when to hold on tight, and when to let go. He knew this, and he just did. Always, without fail. And most of all, he just kept showing up. He never stopped. I often wonder if he knows, or if he knew that one day that would be more than just a memory of a trip, but an image of faithfulness. So no matter the reason, no matter the choice for the travel experience, whether it was Abram, whether it was my family, whether we as travelers, as we venture into places unknown, whether it's a spiritual journey, whether it's highs, whether it's lows, these are the thoughts that I'm left with. First, whether we acknowledge it or not, God always travels with us. God always arrived first, He got there before we did, and God was part of the story of the trip, before, after, during, and especially during the journey. God's wisdom and foresight had the journey and the destination in mind long before the departure. And the more I think about this, that very thing, the more I think about this, it is completely mind-blowing. And because God chooses to travel with us on our journey, that makes us, and it makes our travel holy and our journey sacred. Again, mind-blowing. Second, travel choices. These journeys in life, they have the power and the potential to be transformational every single time. All I had to do was simply show up and to take the first step in faith, just to simply start. It didn't matter whether we had heavy doses of teenage angst or fighting or Legos out the window. It did not matter. It certainly does not matter. But it represented our trip and our journey. And God showed up as well every single time. And last, just like Abraham, the joy, the burden, the sweat, the effort, the celebration, and the sorrow. The open road ahead or the detour. The unexpected flat tires and the inevitable breakdowns. The joy was in the journey. The joy is always in the journey. Though we anticipate the arrival, we anticipate the promise of the destination, the real story comes from the journey. Though Abraham acknowledged special places at special times, the journey is where the action happens, where the travel happens, and life and God meet us there. So labbers, I'm going to leave you with this. This week is a journey, and it's not unlike that of Abram and Sarah. You'll explore new relationships, you'll rekindle existing ones, which is the super coolest thing to see in the whole world. You'll dig deep into self-awareness and how you are gifted as people of God to serve in our church today. You'll be faced with challenges, and you'll get to wrestle with struggles here with your family. But God always, and as God has promised, for Abram and Sarah, remember that God showed up here at Lab. And for this promise in the midst of the journey, we are so very thankful. Thanks be to God for the journey.